Hello and welcome to my Conjuration Skyrim guide. So, Conjuration, what is it good for? When should you use it? It's good for creating powerful summons and weapons that can assist you in combat. It can also raise dead corpses, depending on how big the corpse is or what the corpse is. It can raise it. And by big, I mean like how strong it is, like what level it is. So, for example, reanimate spells do work on creatures. You just have to cast one that's like high enough in magnitude. So you can reanimate like bears to fight for you, for example. I usually just stick to big boys like this, like actual elemental summons, and also like daedra, like the Dremora lords and crap like that. So let's go into the perk tree really quick. So Conjuration has some perks that you absolutely need to get, and other ones that are like more on the optional side. An example of one you need to get is Novice Conjuration, because obviously if you want to get other perks, you have to get this. You probably should get up to Adept Conjuration. After that, you probably don't need Expert and Master. The reason for that is you can reduce the Conjuration cost to 0 if you just use basic enchanting, so that's always an option. If you don't want to use enchanting, then you probably want to get Expert and Master. Adept has most of your useful spells in it. Expert has a lot of strong ones, and Master has some great one-time cast spells, like the Thralls that last forever until they're killed, so that's very good as well, but you usually cast Master spells out of combat. Same thing with Conjuration in general. So, some perks that are good. If you want to run elemental summons, like the Atronachs, you have to get Summoner 1 so that you can get the arguably best perk, aside from Twin Souls, Elemental Potency. It makes them just stronger. It just increases their stats by 50%. This also affects the Elemental Thralls you get at Master level. So you kind of have to go through this whole leftmost branch. You have to get Summoner, Atromancy. This is useful too, but obviously for Thralls not so much because they have an infinite duration. And then once you hit 80 Conjuration, you get Elemental Potency. The other perk you should always get is Twin Souls, so you can have 2 Atronachs or reanimated zombies, or you can have 2 like Dremora lords if you want. Whatever summon you want. There's a bunch of different summons. You can always experiment, like look at find which ones work best for you. Mystic Binding is really good if you plan on using a bound weapon. So I'm using a bound bow. So my build for this character is Conjuration, a splash of Restoration. I almost never get hit because they're always attacking my summon. Some enchanting, and then archery, as you can see. So the bound bow and all bound weapons inherit perks from other trees. So like your bound bow will be affected by archery, and it will raise archery as well. So one thing to note is Hunter's Discipline isn't really useful on it because the bound arrows aren't really something you need to worry about, but getting Ranger is good. But that's more of like a build video, so I'm not going to really delve too deep into that. So back to the skill tree. So there's basically 2 branches on the left that you want to take. There's either the routes for reanimating things and buffing your reanimated things, or the elemental Atronach route. So depending on what you want to do, or if you want to run both, that's pretty much the decision there. The right branch has Mystic Binding, Soul Stealer, and Oblivion Binding, which all buff your bound weapons. So being able to cast Soul Trap for free is great. Just be careful you don't waste Grand Soul Gems on like a rat or something stupid. Like it'll just fill whatever gem is in there. So be very careful if you want to fill Soul Gems, that you don't use a bound weapon and just start filling Grand Soul Gems with like crappy enemies. Oblivion Binding is good for fighting other summoners. You can just delete their summons in one hit or turn their zombies, so that's very powerful. Also keep in mind you will banish your own if you hit them, so one thing to pay attention to once you unlock this is that you're not hitting your own dude, because then you'll have to resummon him, which is a big pain in the ass, especially when you're summoning the Thralls, which take quite a while to summon, so not the best time to just delete them in the middle of combat, so keep that in mind. Actually, I don't know if I'll run Oblivion Binding, because you can just kill the summoner. I usually just kill the summoner to get rid of their summon, so Soul Stealer is good. Mystic Binding's really good. Dual casting, I don't run this. You can if you want. It just makes things last longer, but there's not too many fights in this game that last very long, and if they do, you can always just regen and yeah. So, all right, so let's like go over Conjuration really quickly. Like, what is it good for? Why would you want to run it? Conjuration is like the other offensive form of magic, the other being destruction, where you can summon things that deal damage, distract foes, and you can also summon powerful weapons that are like daedric tier, if not better, because of Mystic Binding. They can't be upgraded though, but they can be boosted through perks in their respective trees and from like enchantments. Like, for example, if I had a bow damage enchantment, this would deal more damage. So I summoned this Jamoro Lord, which is crazy because he's actually quite strong, so I'll just run through and fight some things. So why should you use destruction? Why should you use Conjuration? It's great for stalling fights. It's good for being, like right now I'm an unarmored character. I don't even wear armor. I just have like a robe on. So if you want to just wear like robes and just kind of like shoot things in the background with archery. Is he falling? Okay, that can be a good use case. So like this build, I'm like banking on my dude to like fight these. So I'm just going to kind of run away. This bear is like really chasing me. Alright, so I don't know why he's just standing here. Usually they follow you, but his AI might be kind of messed up for some reason. Here, let's check it out. Maybe he's stuck. Yeah, there he goes. Jesus Christ, he hits really hard. So the big upside to Conjuration is you can summon things that will just tank damage, that will act as like meat shields. This dude deals really good damage, so in combat he's actually quite strong. He seems to be stuck though, so let's resummon him. So I don't have twin souls, so I can just have one thing at a time. Your Conjuration will level while you have summoned things in combat, so that's one thing to keep in mind. So like while you're just like fighting things, it will level from like just having summons active. One useful thing to do is to pre-summon. So what I'm doing is I'm summoning things out of combat, so I have my dude with me. He seems to be trying to fight something up here. There's like something up high. So I summon my dude out of combat, I summon my weapon out of combat, so that when combat starts, I have full magicka, so that if I need to resummon, I'm good to do that. One thing to note is that you regenerate stamina, magicka, everything much slower when you are in combat. So when you are out of combat, it is best to cast all of your things, so that you can regenerate your stamina quickly. So this is the big upside of this, is that I can be pretty safe while my dude just like lays things to waste, and I can just kind of support him. So in the beginning game, like in the early game, your summons are kind of weak. Like you can get like a flame atronach, which is okay. But once you get like the higher level summons, they can really carry fights for you and just like kill things. So yeah, the other big advantage of Conjuration is on high difficulties. When your damage is reduced, your summons damage is not reduced. So you will have like reduced damage, but your summons will not. So that's a big upside if you're just playing vanilla Skyrim. It's just, you might have noticed, I have a loot mod. I also have spawning mod, so if you're wondering why there's like a lot of stuff in here. But alright, so to recap, Conjuration is great, like just in of itself. You can summon powerful things that can deal damage and distract enemies. You can resummon them. So like for example, if there's a bunch of enemies, I summon a dude, I can reposition safely and like kind of take pot shots at them with like a bound bow. You can summon powerful bound weapons. You can have permanent summons with master level, and you can also have like very powerful summons with you. So like this Jamoro Lord does a lot of damage. Another thing to keep in mind is that, for example, if you shout or attack, like let's say this dude's fighting something and I use like a shout, it'll hit him. So you have to be careful not to shoot your own guys, especially when you get, if you get Oblivion Binding, because you will actually delete your own summons. So that is very, like, determine if you want to get that if you're using bound weapons. I don't run it. I don't think it's like super useful. It can be like there's situations where there's like enemy summons body blocking, so you can't get to the summoner. So it really depends, but yeah, it can be good, but you have to be very careful, and that's why I don't like it. So yeah, that's Conjuration. It's very powerful. You can kind of just throw things down and like kite. So like while this is attacking me now he is engaging it, and then I can just kind of summon a bow and just help him. So yeah, it's pretty strong. It's really good. I would say in terms of like Conjuration versus Destruction, what should you use? If you're playing vanilla Skyrim, no mods. Late game Conjuration is insane, and at all stages of the game, it's good. Destruction falls off without mods, but with mods, Destruction is insane. So it depends on if you're modding or not. I highly recommend modding for Destruction because it's one of the most fun ways of playing the game. You can check out my tutorial on that, but yeah, thanks for checking this out, and I will see you guys in the next one.